see a figure 4 online. How angry is Jericho for breaking his arm?
Okay, for those of you who don't know, I get a videotape in the mail, and normally I get these tapes, and it's a bad camcorder footage of a guy that has no tights and he weighs 140 pounds and he can't fucking wrestle, and he's with another guy the same way. And I was in Smoky Mountain. I was trying to find some new guys, but at the same time, I just got disgusted with watching these tapes. So I popped one in. Just the only reason I popped it in was because it came from Canada, and he bothered to send it with a legible fucking cover letter. And so I pop it in, a guy I've never heard of, and I'm looking. I was like, Jesus Christ! His name was Lance Storm, and he was leaping to the top rope in one leap. But it wasn't just acrobatics for the sake of it. He had the size, he had the body. He had the look, he was young, he was wrestling, he was working, his shit looked good and acrobatic. And he's working with this blonde kid. Like, fuck, the blonde kid's as good as he is, Chris Jericho. And so I call up Lance Storm. I said, I would like you to come down here. By the way, can you get a hold of the fucking guy you're working with? Yeah, we're a tag team. Sometimes. I said, well, great. I can't remember what name they used. And then the problem was, Lance was a Canadian citizen. Jericho had dual citizenship. So he could come, but Lance, we had to get paperwork done. I had to hire an immigration lawyer and all this stuff. But I had him come down, and it was great because when they came down for a Knoxville show, just to see the show and to get familiar with the area, and that happened to be, I think, our Sunday Bloody Sunday show where we did a $30-something thousand house, and Terry Funk was in, and there was like 5,000 people there, and they're going, oh shit, we've made it, right? So I made a deal with them, and they didn't understand the concept of gimmicks, selling gimmicks, merchandise, because the Rock and Roll Express may have been making $500 a week wrestling, but they were making $1,000 a week on fucking selling pictures and merchandise. So I'm looking at these two guys, they gotta be pussy magnets, right? The way they look, and they're young, and I said, you know, you can make money on merch. Well, if we're gonna move from Canada, we want to. So I ended up getting and Jericho says this in his book, but he acts like that they raped me and took advantage of me, and really it wasn't that bad. I got their gimmick money and gave them like a $750 a week guarantee or whatever, which wasn't that far out of the way, but I'm thinking these guys are going to sell fucking pictures out the ass. Well, and Lance, I love you. You know I love you, but Lance was bringing his wife to the matches to sell his gimmicks, and then the girl, the rats weren't. The only baby faces I've ever seen, the heels were getting more pussy than the baby faces, because Jericho was picky, as he says in his book. My God, you know, I guess he was waiting for Pamela Anderson to walk through. I mean, all the other guys, it was 8 to 80, blind, cripple, or crazy. If they can't walk, we'll drag them. But Jericho was picky, and Lance had his wife with him. So they weren't, the girls were not, they were not getting service, so they weren't buying the stuff. So I was taking a little bit of a bath, but if I can get these guys over, because I worked them with Well Done, Rex King and Steve Dahl, and you know, they got over there, and then I had the Heavenly Bodies come back for a week for the big shows in August from the WWF to put the Thrill Seekers over, Storm and Jericho, and we're said the big match going to be Knoxville Civic Coliseum, the Night of the Legends, Heavenly Bodies and Thrill Seekers, this big angle we've built up, and we're going to be sold out, which we were. So that night, and I had told Jericho, I saw him take this fucking bump at a spot show in like Wartburg, Tennessee. Guy, he shoots a guy off in the corner, and he comes charging, and the guy moves, and he goes up over the turnbuckles and hits his head on the ring post and takes a bump straight to the floor. It looked like he killed himself. I immediately said, never take that bump again. Never do that again until I tell you to. Because it's going to be on a big show in Knoxville. It's going to be sold out. When you hit the post, you're going to get juiced. The heels are going to beat the piss out of you, and that's going to be the turning point of the match, and then you're going to make a giant comeback, and it'll get you over. So never do that again in front of 300 people in fucking high school gym. Because you could kill yourself. So I've got that bump scheduled for that match, right? We're shooting interviews. At 4 o'clock that day, Jericho said, you don't need me for interviews. Do you mind if I go out and work out in the ring? I said, just don't hurt yourself. And off he goes. So we do the interviews. About an hour and a half later, Brian Hildebrand, Mark Curtis, comes running up to me. It's okay, Jericho's gone to the hospital, but he said he'll be back. I'm like, don't fuck with me, Brian. No, we think he's broken his arm. Who broke his fucking arm? He did. What was he doing? Practicing a shooting star press. He broke his own arm. The building is sold out. He's in the co-main event that night with the Heavenly Bodies. He didn't need to do a shooting star press. The tickets were already sold. All he needed to do was get in the ring, have the match, and win. And now he's also, it's his right arm since his juice getting arms. So that whole fucking spot's out the window. So, and then he ended up getting juice with his fucking left hand, and either because it was left-handed or he wanted to make up for it, then he looked like he'd been run through a razor blade factory. I mean, he almost bled to death. He did. I've got to give him credit. He goes to the hospital. He gets the, not artificial, but one of those temporary casts put on. They said, oh, you need surgery. Oh, I got to go wrestle. What? And he comes back, gets the juice, they win the fucking match, and then the next day he said, fuck it. And they had to put a pin in his arm and all that shit, and he's done. So now I got Lance Storm, one thrill seeker. He can only seek half the amount of thrills. And you know, and then I've got no tag team, and then, you know, Jericho was out for months, and then I was afraid Lance was going to be mad at me. I said, I can't keep paying you this single money because, you know, blah, blah, blah. So we agreed Lance would go back home, and eventually they made it in wrestling, and I'm proud for him. But I may have been slightly mad at Chris that night.
I bet you were. An expletive or two may have fallen out of
Oh, God damn.
your holy mouth.